We're back for what's that?
Oh, I was just saying hey to everyone.
Oh, good evening.
You distracted him already.
Sorry.
2 seconds in.
Sorry. I'm easily distracted, apparently. Good evening, everyone. We're back for another show on the Phins Forecast. First and foremost, before I get into the intro here, I want to. We all want to send our thoughts and prayers out to the people in Florida right now. They have Hurricane Milton bearing down on them. They're still cleaning up from Hurricane Helene. It's not a great situation. If you're staying, please stay safe. If you're evacuating, please evacuate safely. And we are thinking about you guys down there. So, with that said, we're going to start the show here in right now. Good evening, everybody. We are back for another Phins Forecast show number 9. I'm back to keeping count again. That's mostly because Josh is helping me out with that. But yeah, great to be back. Great to be back after another Dolphins victory. So thank God for that. Now it's always good to see the Dolphins win. It's always good to see a victory. So guys, how you doing tonight? Steve, how you doing, man?
Good. Just relaxing, getting my steps in lately. So sitting down feels really good right now.
Nice. Josh, how you doing tonight?
You know what? Can't complain, guys. We're in victory lane here yet again. Hopefully this is a positive trend of what's to come. But everything at home is great. Everything at work is great, and just really excited to jump on our weekly show with you fellas.
Absolutely. Anthony, how we doing tonight, man?
Feeling good, dude. I mean, I'm standing because I sit all day, so I got the opposite problem with Steve. But the rest of the AFC East is a dumpster fire, and we got a win, so it's feeling like a pretty good week to me.
Yeah, and going into this week, we'll get into it. Going into this week, I think we all agreed that style points don't matter, and if style points were what you were looking for in this game, then you came away from it disappointed because there were no style points to be had in this one. But they did come away with a W. What are your initial thoughts on it, Anthony?
Yeah, this will probably be the only time I'm have any sense of negativity throughout the show because I definitely tend to be more positive. But listen, if the NFL didn't have the dumbest rule in the world and they still don't understand what a catch is, we lose this game, right? Because Jalen Polk most definitely caught that ball in the end zone. I think we can all agree on that.
There was no question about that.
So, it didn't end on the high note I was hoping for. Like, if that Alec Ingold touchdown was, in the closing minutes of the fourth and, we roughed one out and we got the win with the touchdown, I would have felt much better about this. That being said, we still technically get credit for the win, so I feel pretty good about it. We're going to get into Game Balls and Jock Straps just in a minute. I think we have some really good ones this week to talk about, but it was really good to see Tyler Huntley get into a rhythm. He was much better this week than he was last week. It was night and day. He still was far from perfect. He still was not NFL caliber, I guess you could say, or at least not I mean, it wasn't great, but you can see the playmaking ability of him out there. You can see there's a little Mahomes in him, just very, very light version, like a light mayo.
Pocket version.
You don't want to eat it, but sometimes it's all you got, right? So, it was. I was encouraged by Huntley's performance, but I am still very hopeful that Tua comes back in Week 8.
Yeah. I think we can all agree on that. I mean, Huntley was decent.
Pedestrian's a good word.
Yeah, pedestrian. Right? There you go.
It's better than he was.
It's really sad that pedestrians what we're rooting for.
Hey,
Yeah.
he graduated from JV to varsity, high school.
Yeah.
Right? That's where we're at right now.
And you know what? The Dolphins did move the ball a little bit. I mean, at one point, I know we were saying, you know, they don't have any points on the board. What's the deal? We'll get into the reasons why that was, but they did move the ball, and Huntley had to move the ball a little bit. And part of it was the running game. Part of it was this is the best I've seen the offensive line play all season. That I will say that.
Oh yeah.
I will add there, because I know we're not going to talk about him later. Jalen Waddle, dude, you got to come down with some of these hard catches, help your quarterback out. I mean, he got hit in the hands like 3 or 4 times. It would have been really tough catches. Don't get me wrong, but you are paid like a top tier receiver, my friend. Let's start performing like one.
Yeah, the problem is these are not anomalies. Sorry, can't speak today anymore. They're becoming a trend between him and Hill. Dropping passes, lack of aggression, and lack of kind of, I don't know. I don't want to call it sustained professionalism, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's true. They play different for Huntley and the other quarterbacks than they do for Tua. It's a very interesting dynamic. I mean, Hill had a touchdown in the end zone if he watches his feet. It's,
Yeah.
Now, that was an amazing play, too. I can't believe he even caught that ball, so I don't really blame him for that. But you're right. Like, you see a difference between the way they play for Huntley or Thompson than the way they play for Tua.
Absolutely. Steve, you've been quiet up there for a little bit. What did you think about
Yeah. No, I was listening. I was getting some other perspectives. I thought it was an ugly game. It was a game that I predicted, but it was a good win too. I mean, it was a win we really needed, and ultimately it just was kind of a game between two teams who really aren't playing great football. In my opinion, it was just the Patriots made a little bit more mistakes than we did, which costed them the game rather than us really earning the game.
That's a good way to
I'm
put it.
happy. Yeah, I'm really happy that it happened. But I mean, for real, like we had a block punt, 2 missed field goals, one off the upright, another one was a botched snap.
Special teams.
We had the interception, we had the snap that went over the quarterback's head that created taking us out of field goal range. That hurt. But ultimately, the Patriots had 12 penalties for 105 yards, where we had 6 for 54. I think that helped. That's probably worth the 5 points that we won by, or I believe, what was it, 10? Yeah, 15-10. That was the 5 points we probably won by right there. I mean, they had 5 pre-snap penalties, 5 offensive holding. That's not helping them anywhere, and then on top of that, they had 2 more penalties on the defense. So it was just a sloppy game, but it was honestly a great win by us, and I think we should be. I know I don't express happiness over it, but we should be happy about it because we're 2-3 and we're totally not out of this division, like not even close. And we're going into a good week of rest, so I think there's a lot to be optimistic about after a tough win, a grinded out win like that.
Yeah, I mean, we're a game back, guys.
Yeah, that's it.
The Bills are 3-2. They're division leaders. We are a game back here. So, I'm getting some echo on my end here. I'm sorry about that, guys.
Yeah, me too.
Sorry about that. I will.
We can't hear you at all now, man. I will say, while Keith is figuring that out, guys, a big shout out to Big Mike this week. I don't think any of us are going to bring it up later, but kind of got rid of the motion.
Yep, I was going to bring it up later.
Right, we had some sense of motion, but like really cut it back a lot. I think he really helped out the offense in just making those changes.
Oh, for sure. I mean, look at the run game, right? So total rushing yards, we had 193, right? I think that's the first time since week 8, I think it was, of week 8 or 7 or 8 of last year. I mean, he committed, he didn't panic. He did everything that we've talked about so far this season. He must listen to the show. I think he's one of the listeners, right? Because what have we been preaching? Yeah. Patience. You are dubbed the run game guru, right? Yet we run the ball 5 times a game. I mean, like, I understand we're paying our wide receivers an obscene amount of money. They're very, very good when Tua's in there. But be consistent. That's literally one of the main core principles that we have been preaching. Just be patient and be consistent. And he was. You saw. I mean, I didn't write down the number of rushes we had this game.
41.
Yeah, I mean, it was awesome. Like that's the kind of game we need. These are the kind of games that we need, right? With our quarterback situation. I think I've been the biggest fan of Huntley on the show so far because I see what he can do under the guys that are offensive coordinator or in our case, our head coach calls the correct game plan for him.
Yeah.
Run the ball heavy. That opens up the play action, which he's very good at. That allows you to use his legs. That allows you to then throw in some design runs, some quarterback runs, so he can use what his strength is and keep it simple, stupid, right? That's the game plan with Huntley. And I think the fact that we ran the ball as much as we did, I think Wright and Mostert, I'm glad I was happy to see Mostert back. I think that was some of the juice that we needed, kind of a spark. He looked awesome.
Yeah,
right?
He made everybody else look like they're not explosive. Like, let's do it right. Right was just out of a cannon. But I mean, Devon A-Chain is explosive, but he almost doesn't look it when you watch those two get the ball and hit the hole. Like,
shout out to him getting healthy quick.
Yeah.
And the concussion protocol again. I mean, what is that, player number 58 for us? That's in the concussion protocol.
They were running that ball tough in between the tackles and guards. You know,
this was like an early 90s type of football game where we're just going to run it down your throat. We're going to get the 2 yards. We're going to fall forward for that 3rd or 4th. We're going to get the 4 yards. Exactly. Yep. And I think to your point, Steve, this kind of tough win that we gutted out sets the stage and allows the players to believe that they can do these kind of games down the road. So to Anthony's point and to Keith's point, I think it was Keith, sorry. We're still in it, right? We won the division game. Everyone else in the division lost. We're a game out of this division. Tua comes back in a few weeks. If he comes back and he is the player that he was last year, maybe not in game 1, please, for the love of God, please don't be that player again. I think we have every chance to be optimistic that we can get this done. All we need is a chance. We just need to get in. I don't give a crap if it's we win the East or if we sneak into the wild card. You get in, then you make it play because it's first. You win or you go home.
So I'm not sure who it was. It might have been Schefter or something, but they had just said Tua was meeting either tonight or tomorrow night with doctors to see whether or not he should or should not play and how soon he can come back. So there should be a timeline sooner than later coming out for Tua. And indications are saying from, people, Manti Te'o, including him, I guess he's has worked with Tua in off seasons and knows Tua pretty well. But according to him, Tua wants to play according to him. So I saw something that he was saying. Now he's speaking for Tua only if I hear Tua say it, then I believe it. But that's kind of going around right now. Him kind of giving the word for Tua that he's coming back. And I think it makes us excited. And I think it could be as soon as 2 weeks. Reading some of these reports, if you will. They're not any doctors, but he's visiting with the right people today or tomorrow to hopefully get cleared for the maybe one more game out.
A lot of Twitter doctors are going to be mad about that. But let's be honest. I mean, the only reason people are so down on Tua coming back is because his injuries were so both were on prime time, and both of them he was clutching his hands. But I mean, it just happened to Josh Allen over the weekend. And
I was literally about to say that.
Anything about
waking him up with smelling salts. He was back in 6 minutes later. He
was down in the fetal position, hand as a claw, just like Tua.
He was out. It wasn't even.
He was completely knocked out.
Yeah.
At one point, you could see his hand up against the turf like this. He was not bracing himself at all. He was knocked out.
Goes in the blue tent, like Steve said, for 6 minutes.
Yep.
It was
and
3 NFL minutes, 5 plays.
Get
Well,
some
look-
smelling salts and back out in the field. Like, what?
And
How
that's the
did
thing.
they not violate any rules there? Right?
Well, and the Bills fans who want to get on us about how we handled Tua a couple years ago, their claims to moral superiority here are falling on deaf ears now.
Out the window.
Yeah, completely out the window.
I didn't want to harp on that or anything. I was just like, it just is so like.
But it's a good point.
Yeah,
It's such a it's a hypocrisy. Like there's just two different rules for different players, and it doesn't make any sense.
mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yep.
All right, so we've talked about the offense. We talked about how Huntley got them moving the ball a little bit. We do need to touch on special teams. We do need to touch on the lack of discipline still. I found this to be one of the worst coached special teams games I've seen in a long time now. Danny Crossman has come under fire on this show.
Yep, sure has.
Times.
I heard Robert Sala's looking for a job.
You think he'd be willing to coach that
Word
special
on the
teams?
Hey, make him an assistant head coach and let him be the special teams coordinator. I don't care.
But yeah, the special teams was not very good. So how do we fix it? What do we do better next time?
I got an idea.
Go for it, Josh.
Fire Dan Crossman. Get rid of him
All right.
immediately tomorrow during the bye week. Bye. Because look, it can't get any worse, right? It really can't.
But
Jake Bailey.
how is it his fault? He's not the one who dropped the snap to set up the field goal. He's not the one who didn't kick the ball fast enough on the punt. Like, I understand like wanting to rip him, but like these were player problems in this game, more than scheme problems. I mean, like everybody on special teams had Butterfinger Sans Barrios on that one nice return.
If we're being honest, we laced into McDaniel. Those are
You're
player
right.
errors.
You're right.
Right. I mean, the coach has to get the players ready. You have to know that is their entire responsibility is to make sure they understand, okay, when you get the ball, you need to do this in this amount of time.
Yeah.
When you get the ball, you need to look here. When you are blocking, you need to push here and fall off to help this guy immediately. Don't jump off. It's this is going to be a two count. This is going to be a hard count. This is going to be a soft. All of this shit is what the coach, all of this stuff is what the coach is supposed to prepare your players for. I understand players are going to play, right? You can only affect the game so much as a coach, but at the end of the day, just like my manager at my job, it falls on, if I screw up, it falls on me to an extent, but it's a reflection of her, right? And this is a reflection on Crossman. I'm sorry. And it hasn't been just this year. He's been bad for years. We've had one of the worst special teams for probably since since he took over, outside of one anomaly year.
Yeah.
It's almost like they don't give them any money in a budget. It's almost like they give them the lowest budget possible and kind of say, do what you can with this.
That's kind of what special teams is, though.
Yeah, but there's some, I mean,
they're the Dollar General
about it. Kickers are legitimately usually the all-time leader in points scored for a team. I mean, it is an important position, and a lot of the times, all the pressure is going to fall on you at the end of the game. So I think these players do need to start making better money, and I think with better money, you're going to get better players. Some of these players outkick what they're going to make, and they don't want to be that guy anymore. Like even Marquette King back in the day, he's a punter, but he was exciting and he was great. I still think he has the longest punt in NFL history, but he wants too much money, so therefore he went and played in a league where he's going to get more money for selling jerseys and making media appearances.
Well, the problem with that is there's only so much room, and with the increase in salary cap, because the owners aren't going to. I don't want to use the word collude, but because the owners aren't going to get together and say, okay, collectively, we are going to allocate X amount, I'm making this up, X percentage to the quarterback position, X percent, so that it can be allocated in other places instead of, all right, well, it's the next guy up, so we got to give him 60 million. Okay, the next guy's up, we got to give him 65 million. Until that kind of stuff happens, special teams.
I think with how little these players are getting, it's going to be hard to find that Adam Vinatieri anymore, because after 5-6 seasons of kicking consistent, they're going to want to make a couple million. They're not going to want to just make $1 million for the season or $2 million for the season.
Yeah, some of the first world problems, huh?
Yeah, no, I get it, but they're seeing everybody else's paycheck.
But you're still Yeah, Justin Tucker was the example I was about to use too.
He's the only one making that kind of money, though, right? I don't think anybody else is.
But that's after 10 plus years of sustained, absolute excellence, being the best kicker in football.
I think Atlanta just paid their guy like a crap load of money. Their kicker,
and he's earned that.
He's earned solid.
Brandon Aubrey's going to get paid by the Cowboys.
One thing I do wonder is who's, it's hard for us to know what the relationship is between the GM and scouts and the coaches and stuff, like who's pulling those strings. But like you've seen guys like this Brandon Aubrey come in out of nowhere, right? And then you've seen this kid who just came from the XFL who's now kicking for the Lions, right? And it's like, who's making these calls to go out on a limb and bring in some of these younger talents that are arguably more exciting than a Jason Sanders, right? And which Sanders hasn't been a huge problem, but just like that whole idea of like who's finding the talent for special teams. I mean, we see very few special teams coaches get jobs. Is probably a good reason for that. I think Harbaugh up in Baltimore is the most successful one.
Yeah.
But I always wonder, like, what's the dynamic there, right?
Probably scouts, right? They have special team scouts for different positions, and then they pick a coach, and as long as it doesn't poop the bed, he's your special team.
Yeah, depending on the team, right? Some of them only have watching the Giants, what do you call it? Hard Knocks. They have like 8 scouts. That's crazy. To cover the entire country and all those players. But I digress. So the one thing I do want to point out is if he gets to choose who's starting, like, dude, the Berrios experiment's a little bit over, bro. I mean, another one with a fair catch with 5 yards of distance between the closest defender and him. What are you looking at? Malik Washington did a fine job in the preseason. I'm okay with giving him a shot. Why not? He's not doing anything else. I mean, he's not catching any balls out there on offense. So he had one nice play in this game, and he's had, I think, one nice play in another game. But outside of that, he's been largely absent.
I mean, he only has 1 reception on the year, so for 8 yards.
No, that's Malik, right? I mean Berrios.
Oh, Berrios. Gotcha.
Yeah, Berrios has been largely just absent as a punt returner. He's been not good.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. He did have a nice punt return this last game, but it is something we need to address going into the bye week, and that's what the bye week's for, isn't it? To address any issues, to get healthy, get your minds right, get your bodies right. I think during this bye week, the Dolphins are going to should be doing more work than most teams would do during a bye week. They have to go back to the lab here a little bit. I mean, we had them starting. Most of us had it starting 4-1, 5-0. They're 2-3. It's been a disappointing start. They need to do some work. And that's special teams. That's everybody. That's everybody and everywhere. So
I thought the defense especially looked like they regressed in this one.
Yeah.
They were letting up chunk plays all over the place, whether it was Stevenson, Gibson, Brissett. I mean, it was just
the end of the game stuff where defensive coordinators are calling scared. The game's scared. Let's just throw prevent defense on, and they're getting 12, 11, 10, 12, 15, 12. It's like, come on, guys. Like,
watching Jalen Ramsey just let Polk run right by him. It's like, you are our top paid corner, right? Do you understand what that means?
It drives me nuts.
And it's been such a departure from what they've been throughout this season, too, because they have been the unit that's kind of been holding things together to an extent.
They're 6th in the NFL in total yards allowed per game and 4th in passing yards allowed per game.
Yeah.
I mean, why are we playing prevent defense with 7 minutes left in the game? Like, come on.
The old saying goes, all prevent defense does prevent wins.
Ooh, never heard that before. I like that.
Yeah. But yeah, and that's kind of what the Dolphins got into. They got into this prevent defense, and they don't have the pass rushers anymore to get after Jacoby Brissett on a consistent basis. And it was just
defensive rookie of the year.
Yeah. Yeah, and we'll
it's
get
not working out
too.
For me on that call right now. It's really not.
But
it's not developing.
So with all that being said, guys, let's get into the best segment on all of YouTube.
Oh, yes. And not just YouTube. Sports media
Sports
history.
entertainment media.
History. Sorry. Sorry.
Get it
Sports media
right.
history.
Jeez.
The best segment in sports media history. Game balls and jock straps. Game balls and jock straps. Who's going to start us off? Steve, start us off on your game ball, man.
Well, this is perfect because we're coming off special teams, and
Hey,
I'm
there we
keeping
go.
it in special teams. I knew this game was going to come down to field goals, and I'm going to give it down to Jason Sanders. Not that it came down to a field goal, but I knew that it was going to be a big part of the game. Two obviously didn't go our way. Only one was credited to him as a miss, though. The other was credited to a fumble. But I kind of give it to the special teams as a miss. You know, you're up there to get points, and it didn't happen. So, it didn't seem like the conditions were very favorable though, because Sly did miss a 33-yarder right after, we did have the one that didn't go our way. But Sanders did hit a 54-yarder, a 47-yarder, and a 32-yarder. That's 9 points. That's enough to keep us in the game and get us the win. So not enough to get us the win, but help get us there. So he gets.
Sanders was good, and the ball off the upright, these things happen. So, we can excuse that.
Yeah.
All right, Josh, give me your game ball, man.
Yep, mine is none other than our fabulous rookie running back, Jalen Wright. I thought this was the first game. Now, I've been a huge fan of his since Tennessee. I was stoked that we drafted him. And this was the first time all season where he got 13 carries for 86 yards, 6.6 yards on average. That's exactly where we want a running back to kind of hang around. If it was more, that'd be wonderful. But anything above 5.5 is great, right? And I thought he was decisive. He did not dance like he had been in the previous games. It was, I'm going to plant my foot in the ground, north and south. I'm not doing this east-west crap where I'm trying to juke and dance and spin. I'm just going to put my head down and run through people. And I thought he initiated contact well. I thought his vision was great. I think one or two plays he should have hit the hole a little sooner or missed the hole completely on one play. But other than that, those are expectations for rookie players. I thought he was outstanding this game.
Yeah, I agree. He was a large reason why we won this game.
Yeah, and I can't believe I forgot to mention it. Outstanding in the blocking game too. And for a rookie running back, that's huge.
Absolutely. Anthony, game ball, man.
Last week I said Jordan Brooks was a man possessed. So this week it was Alec Ingold, dude. I was so happy that Mark Sanchez was calling it out because I was watching this replay. I was like, man, 30 is everywhere. Just up and down the field, hitting the hole. He's the reason we ran for nearly 200 yards. I mean, he was the lead blocker on every single one of these carries and essentially took the middle linebacker completely out of the game. It was completely irrelevant. He was never in the hole because 30 was there clearing it out. I thought it was really fitting to give him the touchdown when we got on the 2-yard line there.
That was great.
Nice little simple handoff.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't expect to give a fullback my game ball very often this year, but in this one, he absolutely deserved it because he was crushing it. Really happy to have a fullback and a team that uses a fullback too. I know it's like a dying breed in the NFL, but I don't know how you could watch things like this and watch Christian McCaffrey do really well in San Francisco and say the fullback's not a position worth having because it's nuts to me. I mean, Juszczyk and Ingold are worth their weight in gold for the running game. So shout out to Alec Ingold. Great game this week.
Yeah, he really was great. And, shout out to Jake Potter from Nickel City Mafia. He loves fullbacks. He loves Alec Ingold.
Love that.
Compliments him every chance he gets. I played fullback myself on my football days. So
that's why we love you, Keith.
Yeah, I love football too. So, but yeah, it was a great game by him. And, used to watch the Cowboys back in the 90s. And Emmitt Smith got all the accolades, but Daryl Johnston was the one. Moose Johnston was the one, opening up holes for him. And that's what Alec Ingold was doing for Jalen Wright. That's what he was doing for Raheem Mostert in this game. It's what needed to be done. Like Josh said, he
depleted somebody. I forgot who it was, but there was one play where he just put his hands right in someone's chest and on his butt. It was awesome.
Yeah. And, you were saying earlier, Josh, it's 90 style football is what the Dolphins were playing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in 90 style football, you need a 90 style fullback. And that's what Alec Ingold was for us. So love the way he played. I'm going in a different direction here, and none of us took defensive guys, but I'm going with Jonnu Smith here. Jonnu Smith was the security blanket that Tyler Huntley needed in this game. And when you're a young quarterback, when you're an experienced quarterback, when you're a quarterback who, let's face it, isn't as talented, you're going to need a security blanket, a guy you can count on. Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, they run all the flashy routes, but you need a guy down the middle who's just going to be a steady performer for you. And Jonnu Smith was that in this game. And I think I'm hoping against hope here that maybe this will be the push that McDaniel needs to feature his tight end in his offense a little bit more. Because this game that Jonnu Smith had was beyond solid. It saved Tyler Huntley a few times. It saved the Dolphins a few times. Loved what I saw. So that's my game ball. I'm going to go right in the jock straps, and we're just going to go right back around the horn here. So my jock strap is another tight end, Julian Hill. Julian Hill, he's been the bane of my existence since he's come into the NFL.
Boy, did I whiff on that one. Oof.
Yeah. He gets these holds and these false starts and these legal formations, and they're always drive killers. They always negate these, 20, 25-yard runs. I'm tired of seeing Julian Hill out there. I'm just tired of it. I can't do it anymore with this guy. And he had another key penalty in this game that, helped kill a drive for the Dolphins. And you can't have one guy doing this to you every week. I think Steve sent out a stat earlier on in the day saying that he's had 7 accepted penalties against him this season. Unacceptable.
I think I texted you guys after the big run got called back. I was like, it does feel like every big run we have gets called back, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And guess who's the cause of it?
Yeah. And a lot of times it's Julian Hill that's getting called.
It was Robert Jones to start the season.
Yes.
He was a big problem to start.
Yeah, he still is.
Yeah, he still is.
So
But
is Eichenberg. Neither of the guards are very good.
Hey, all joking aside, though, Eichenberg has been playing relatively well this season in comparison to where we assumed he would be.
yeah,
And what the
Really saying that
perception
much.
and
I mean-
what the perception. Well, what the perception of Eichenberg is, let's go get the guy from Publix bagging groceries and he'll be just as good. Eichenberg, from a grade standpoint, for everyone that I follow that's a professional at this, they grade players game by game, snap by snap, and they have him graded, right at neutral, right, which is fine.
it's an improvement. All right, Anthony, who's your jock strap for this game?
My jockstrap goes to the special teams unit. I mean, it was an atrocious day. I mean, I missed the first half of the game, and Keith was like, our offense has actually been playing well, but the special teams killed us, and I truly didn't believe you. I owe an apology, because when I rewatched, it was just awful. We had a blocked punt. Bailey, what are you doing? 2 missed field goals. One of them I think it counts as a missed field goal, or maybe it doesn't count as a fumble. I think actually Bailey got credit for the fumble on that, so he gets 2. And then we hit the upright, which happens, but 41 yards, man. You got to make those. You're a professional kicker. So, and then I mentioned before, Barrios fair catching the ball with nobody in sight. I think whoever was the lead blocker right in front of him looked back at him and was like, what are you doing? It was one of those most honest NFL moments where you see a player call out another player just live in the act because they're not thinking about it. What the hell? What are you doing, man? There was nobody here. So the special teams unit, it was a forgettable day and could have actually lost us this one.
Yeah.
We could have used those. Yeah, we could have used those 3 points, especially towards the end of the game. If that Jalen Polk touchdown did actually count, like it should have. We could have used those 3 points there.
Yeah, and there was, and Steve touched on it with the botch snap that went past Tyler Huntley. The Dolphins left a lot of points on the field in this game.
They have all season.
Yeah, they have. But in this game especially, in such a close game, such a tight game, this game could have been over. The Patriots driving down the field, score a touchdown. didn't have to worry us as much as it did at the end of that game. And
Yeah, I
special
wasn't
teams.
going to put that botch snap on special teams, but what on earth was Aaron Brewer doing? At what point did he see somebody ready to receive a snap? That was a wild play.
Yeah. I was lumping that in with the 2 missed field goals.
You're right. I mean, it was an opportunity for a special teams play for sure.
Yeah. So not their best. And we've talked about them ad nauseum in this show tonight. And I'm sure we're going to talk about him more because I don't think Danny Crossman's getting the axe anytime soon. All right, Josh, who's your jock strap for tonight?
I mean, I'm very surprised that somebody didn't jump on this guy sooner. I mean, just for the audience, we have side chats, and so we make sure that we don't steal each other's thunder. But Duke Riley has been a big pile of flaming dookie. I mean, just horrible. Last game with the muffed punt thing that he tried to do, whatever the hell that was, all of the penalties on special teams, all of the game, this past game, I am so tired of this dude. I actually really liked him. I shouldn't say really. I liked him he was a solid backup a couple years ago. Came in, spelled, 10, 15 plays a game, didn't screw up. Fine. He didn't make any great plays, but he didn't screw up. This whole season, he's been just a dumpster fire, and it's just been getting worse. Just gasoline on the dumpster fire. Just let's see how big we can get this thing. And like Danny Crossman, I think they should both be handed their pink slips tomorrow and say thank you for your service. Figure your shit out, and we'll see you later.
As long as I take Julian Hill with them.
Yeah, fine. Yeah. Hey, you know what? That's a fair trade-off.
It's harder to pinpoint him this year, too, because he doesn't have the long bloned hair flowing out of the back of his helmet. So I'm like, who was that guy? What number is that? And oh, it's Riley. That's nobody.
Oh, here he is again. that muff punt, that where he fell on the punt and lost it, and we luckily didn't lose it last game. That was it for me. I was like, bye. You just need to go away.
All right, Steve, jockstrap.
I have to roll my sleeves up for this one.
All right, fellas.
Boy.
All right, fellas.
But because we won this, it was definitely hard for me to really break down on any of the players besides the obvious that we had chosen. So I'm actually going to take my attention away from the players and move it towards us as fans. We are incredibly negative on social media outlets in the comments. This is honestly how I found the jockstrap. I clicked on what I thought was a pretty positive post and a lot of optimism, and then every comment underneath was just trashing the Dolphins, trashing the coaches, trashing Tua's not even playing. Stop trashing the man. It's
in fairness, he was your jockstrap last week, Steve.
He was,
but they're trashing him for all the wrong reasons. They're not. They're trashing him because they say he's a bad quarterback. I was trashing him for being a bad leader. I think he's a great quarterback. But we're only 2-3, and to be honest, there's a lot of teams that have had 9 wins, 8 wins even, and made it to the playoffs. And actually, I did a little research, and there's 3 notable teams that have had 9 wins that have made it to a Super Bowl: the 2011 New York Giants, the 2008 Arizona Cardinals, and then I dug a little deeper for this one, the 79 Rams, and I like this one a lot because they started off the same exact way we're starting right now. I don't know about injuries. I don't know the history of the 79 Rams, but with how they started, it's not far off from where we're at. And, they eventually made it to a Super Bowl. I'm not sure if they won the Super Bowl. I didn't have, I kind of get sidetracked here and there, but the strap ultimately goes to us as fans. There's still time. We just need to clean it up and rally behind the team rather than completely insult it and just we're ruthless. We have an opportunity. We have an opportunity to create the greatest comeback in NFL history. I said it a week or 2 ago, and I'm going to say it again. I think we do legitimately have an opportunity to be great by the end of the season if the players that we get come back can stay healthy.
I agree with you, Steve, and I think we are sometimes a little negative. And I'll be the first one to tell you that I'm guilty of this myself at times. In my defense, 24 years without a playoff win will do that to you.
Jaded.
Yeah. I've seen some bad football as a Dolphins fan. The last time the Dolphins won a playoff game was against Peyton Manning in his third season. It's ridiculous at this point. But yeah, I think we do all as a fan base need to try and clean up our negativity a little bit.
Yeah,
because this team does still have a lot of hope.
Yeah, for the thumbnail,
just need to take a step back and just take a breath.
For the thumbnail on social media, if we want to use my face and plaster it on each and every fan with a crying Jordan face on it, I'm totally okay with it. I'll be that fan because I think we're all guilty of it here and there, but let's just, I wish we could all have our rally towel. Not that we have rally towels, but I wish we would kind of just find something that we can all get behind and just, as fans, yell at the TV. I remember them bricks that used to come out with your favorite team logo on it. You could throw it at the TV or whatever. It was brick.
I mean, look, fans can rally around our show if they want to. I mean, use us.
Yeah, we're here.
We're here. Absolutely. We're here to support you.
But
yeah, we'll commiserate together, all of us.
Yeah, I would like to. Before I forget, I want to throw out an honorable mention game ball, if I may.
Yeah,
I totally whiffed on this one, and I want to send it out to oh God, what the hell's his name? The quarterback for the Jets. Why am I blanking on the quarterback of the Jets?
Aaron Rodgers.
Thank you, Jesus. Yes, I want to throw a game ball out to Aaron Rodgers for being an absolute just stick of dynamite for one of the AFC East, one of our AFC East, competitors. Just throw him in, chuck the grenade, let it. It's been amazing to watch, and I just want to thank him personally for the comedy and the excitement and the love of watching that Jets franchise just continue to crumble.
One of my buddies said to me yesterday, he's like, I know you guys have had a tough run as a Dolphins fan, but you must admit, at least you're not a Jets fan. I was like, that's a really good way to put it.
Yeah. Hey, when I think nothing can get worse as a Dolphins fan, I just shift my focus to the left, look at the Jets, go on their timeline on Reddit or go on their thread on Bleacher Report, and just 10 minutes later, I feel great. I feel like we have a winning championship franchise.
If the Giants hadn't won a Super Bowl in that building, I would seriously think that the Jets were cursed. I have never just one team having so many atrocious things happen to it is so crazy.
Within the last 20 years, there is a team fan base that's had it worse than the Jets. It's the
Browns?
Cowboys.
Oh,
the Cowboys have had a horrible last 20 years.
Well,
they've had great seasons, but it just ends like a Mack truck hit it.
Aren't there still 6 teams that don't have a Super Bowl though? I mean, I feel for those fan bases for real.
Yeah. Not that I would know what one feels like. I mean,
exactly.
Sure.
We wouldn't know because we weren't alive for ours, but at least our team was won one in the past.
I mean, that's fair.
Well,
that's fair.
In truth, none of us were alive when they even made the Super Bowl in '84. So, we're a long-suffering fan base as well. And we can. Lean on our 1972 season, our 1973 season, but we weren't alive. We won a Super Bowl of our own. We won a Super Bowl to call our own, and a little bit of positivity, like Steve was saying, and throw some negative vibes toward the Jets while you're at it.
Yeah, sorry, I had to, man.
Of course. All right, so guys, look, this is the bye week, so we don't have a game to preview for next week. So we're gonna go into. We're gonna grade the position groups for the Dolphins. Grade position groups as a whole. So in quarterback, you're taking into account Tua, Huntley, Skylar Thompson, Tim Boyle for the whole half that he played. And we're gonna grade the position groups. We're gonna go through them all. It's a fun little exercise we're gonna do. Just kind of recalibrate here a little bit, I suppose. So we're gonna start off with quarterback. So Tua played a game and a half, didn't play particularly well, but I think his numbers are deceiving. I think he played much better in that Bills game than everybody said he did. So got Tua there. We got Skylar Thompson that came in for Tua in that game. We have Skylar Thompson that played about 3/4 of the game against Seattle. Tim Boyle, who played, and then Tyler Huntley these last two games. So as far as quarterbacks go, I can't give them a good grade because they haven't been a strength of our team. I'm going to give them a C-.
Are we doing minuses and pluses? I like it.
Yeah, well,
I like it.
A C seems too good
Positive.
for how the quarterbacks have played. I have to throw a minus in there, 70%, if you will.
I like it.
Steve, what do you think?
Yeah, I was screaming at my head. I'm right there at C-, D+ area, probably about a 70, like you said. And I know below average when I see it. And my mom would tell you that if she would look at my report card, and the same report card I got, I'm given. So I know what not trying looks like, and it doesn't even look like we're trying out there. So I actually give it a D+.
Okay. Josh, what do you
Tyler
think?
Huntley brought it up from an F. I do want to tell you that.
There we go.
Huntley
In
did
one
bring
game.
it up from an F. Yes.
Yeah,
Josh, what do you think?
yeah. For me, honestly, I don't hope you guys don't think that this is a cop out, but I think it's an incomplete. Right?
That is a cop out. Give a grade, dang it.
It is, but it's hard. It's hard to give
For
to
medical
give a grade.
purposes.
Yeah, right. I mean, with look, if a fan ever says, "Hey, Skylar Thompson, Boyle, Huntley, they're gonna get us to the playoffs. They're gonna get us a playoff win. They're gonna get us to the Super Bowl." I just personally don't feel that that's reality, and so then it falls down on Tua, right? Which we all know. Tua is our franchise guy. He's our quarterback. We are seeing now how good he really is, right? I mean, I think it is very clear and evident and obvious how good of a quarterback Tua is when he's healthy. The problem is he's not healthy. So it's because of the injury, I don't think that we can accurately grade this. So we get an incomplete, fellas, from me.
All right. Anthony, what do you think?
I think I'm counting that incomplete as an F because you can't just say you can't come out with an incomplete. You chose this segment.
Sure, this was your idea, Josh.
Honestly, this was an F for me as well until Huntley's last game here. It's a T-, so I'm not giving it much more than that. Even when Tua was playing, I know he looked okay in the Bills game, but he looked awful in the Jaguars game. This position has been really, really, really bad, and that's why the team has been really, really, really bad, right? So it's a D- for me. I can't go higher than that. And you guys kind of filled in pretty much my thoughts on the matter. I need you don't win a Super Bowl without good quarterback play, and if the quarterback play stays at this level, we might have a hard time doing that. So hopefully Tua comes back and proves us wrong on that.
All right, fine. I'll go D.
D it is.
Can I just add something real quick? I do, and this has nothing to go with the grade to what I'm about to say of this other position, but I do feel that the quarterback position is really compatible with how your offensive line is playing. If your offensive line is playing like crap, you're not going to have any quarterback that's going to be able to succeed under that kind of pressure. And that's honestly what forms good Super Bowl teams, is teams that get to quarterbacks fast. Any quarterback that's always under pressure will make any defense look great. And honestly, we don't have the offensive line to be able to give out a grade any higher than C-. Like they coincide with each other. In order to have a good quarterback grade, like I was saying, you need to just have a good offensive line.
Well, in that case, you guys are going to be shocked at my O-line grade.
It doesn't have anything to do with the grade of the O-line.
No, I know.
Yeah.
Well,
I think I agree with that on the Super Bowl run, because I feel like Lamar's had some really bad O-lines and Burrow's had some really bad O-lines, and they still make a playoff push, but neither of those teams have won a Super Bowl. So I think that's where you start to really see, once you start facing the other top talent in the league, that's where you really start to see how that affects the quarterback the most.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, when your quarterback's not generational from a running standpoint in Lamar, I mean, you need a good O-line.
And if your quarterback isn't Joe Burrow, who's just willing to get murdered on every drop back.
I miss quarterbacks like Ben Roethlisberger, just huge 230-pound monsters that you couldn't take down.
Yeah,
But
you'd
not
bounce off
having
of
them
them.
kind of guys. Yeah.
Yep.
Will Levis is a little like that if he could actually stay on the field.
Yeah.
So is Malik Willis
Mhm.
for the Patriots. I know he's on a practice squad, but that dude is built like a shit brick house.
By the way, keeping the final scores, that looks like a D, cumulative grade of a D for the quarterback.
Okay. So let's move on to running back. Steve, I'll let you lead off on running back since I let off on quarterback.
So I was really wrong with how our running backs were going to work at the beginning of the season. I thought we were going to see a lot more screen passes, and obviously I thought Mostert was going to be a huge role in the beginning of the season, but you can't ever predict injuries. But along with the injuries, I feel like our next man has always stepped up, and I give our running backs a B+. I don't give anybody an A on this. I'm telling you that right now. None of our football has played at an A level, but our running backs definitely deserve a B+ because they have been the heartbeat of the team.
All right. Yeah, I like that grade. Anthony, what do you think?
Yeah, I was thinking B. The plus or minuses are hard, but I thought they've been very good. I know that their statistics don't necessarily look like it, but if you're watching the team on the field, this is the only position that really pops out at you as like a potential good enough to win a Super Bowl. Like if you're just siloing each position by itself, the running back room looks fantastic. Devon Achane was our offense for the first 3 games of the year. He gets hurt in this one, unfortunately, but then Jalen Wright steps right in, and that's the second game in a row that Jalen Wright played really well in. And then Mostert comes back looking like he never left. So add in Alec Ingold. He's a part of this running back room. I think this is a solid B. Steve's point about B+, that might be right up there too. So I'm going to stay with my B, though. Yeah.
All right, Josh, what do you think?
I actually have this rated really high. I have an A- for our running back group. I think when you're factoring in an offense, right? So you have that factors in as a running back, like through the running back lens. You have your running backs, right? From a health standpoint and a consistency standpoint. You have your play calling, right? Which factors into how successful they are. Then you have your offensive line. Now we'll get to it in a minute. I have a relatively high offensive line grade, given everything that group has gone through. I think our running back to Anthony, to really everyone's point, and outside of the show, they've carried this team, and it's not debatable, right? I mean, that is unequivocal. They have the 2 wins that we have are because of are mainly because of our running back group, and to me, I have them the second highest rated group on the team right now.
Okay. I like your grades. I'm also going to go B+ on this one. I think I agree with Steve. I don't know if they deserve an A. I think Achane does look slower, to Steve's point. He doesn't look like the same. He has the same explosiveness. I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that he gained some weight in the offseason to try and sustain himself for a full season. But he just hasn't looked as explosive as he did last year. But Jalen Wright's been good. Raheem Mostert came back and looked like Raheem Mostert. Yeah, and Jeff Wilson is a steady Eddie. McDaniel loves him for a reason.
I can't stand him.
Too.
I don't know why I don't like him.
I don't know why.
Either. I just don't know why, but I can't. Ugh.
He runs hard every time he has the ball. He runs like his shoes are on fire.
To use the 2024 terminology that I hear on Instagram is he's got the ick factor. I don't know what it is.
Fair enough. I used mid last week, and now we're going into.
I don't like the direction we're going.
No,
here.
neither do I. 90s. We need 90s podcasting, fellas.
Using the parlance of our times, I see.
Start using the word John soon.
Yeah.
All right. So moving on, we're going to go to Anthony. What's our cumulative grade for running backs on that?
Yeah, cumulative grade for the running backs is a B+. So
nice.
Really good unit there. Yeah.
All right. We're moving on to wide receiver. Josh, I'm going to start with you on this one.
Yeah, I think this is a C to a C-. I mean, I think I wanted to go lower, right? But I couldn't justify it. I think that they have Hill and Waddle specifically seemingly have regressed every game, right? And that's troubling. I don't know if that I'm sure it's a combination of obviously the quarterback play and the coaching and the calling, or the play calling rather. But I think they've done enough to be just mediocre for the season so far. Nothing to write home about, nothing to burn the ships and throw everyone overboard yet. So, C right down the middle, thought it was safe.
Anthony?
Yeah, I'm going to go with a C-. And I think, when you're looking at the wide receiver room, you obviously look at Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle first and foremost. They should be the leaders in this group. They should be the ones leading the charge here. And they just haven't been. Like we mentioned, they play differently with these backup quarterbacks than they do with Tua. And it's not necessarily like, yeah, of course, because the backup quarterbacks don't throw it as well. It's not just that, though. They drop passes they don't normally drop. They're not running the routes that you expect to see them run. Like, there's just something different about the way they approach the game when it's not Tua behind center. And, like, when you're taking into account the rest of them, the rest of who? The rest of nobody? Every third wide receiver we've put in there has been an absolute disaster, whether you're looking at Berrios or Malik Washington or Robbie Chosen got cut the next day. He was so bad.
Right out of my mouth.
Right? Like, I mean, I can't give them any higher than a C-. Just based on, like, if we're looking at the position as a whole, even though the top two have not been up to snuff, the rest of them have been invisible. So I think this unit has a lot of improvement that they could do over the next, how many games we have left? I don't even know. Yeah. A lot.
Anthony, you just talked me into a D, honestly. I was going to go C-, but the way you were talking, man, like they've just underperformed so badly to the point where it's like, I can't go any higher than a D personally, because, they were supposed to bail out these quarterbacks. They were supposed to make the catches that no other receivers can make. They were supposed to get the yards after catch no other receivers can get. And they've been, I'm looking at Waddle and Hill especially, they've been largely pedestrian. With the quarterback play, you can't really expect much more than, a C from a Tyler Huntley. You can't, or a Tim Boyle or a Skylar Thompson, but you expect A's. You expect A games from Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, and you haven't gotten them this season. Mm-hmm. And like you said, third wide receiver, who is it? Is it Odell Beckham? Is it Braxton Berrios, Malik Washington? We don't have a number 3 wide receiver right now. So this position group as a whole, to me, gets a D, and I feel like I'm being generous in giving them that. Steve, go ahead, man.
I couldn't agree with you anymore, Keith. I was already at a D+, but I got knocked down to a D myself because they downright stink. I haven't seen Tyreek Hill drop so many balls ever, and they're easy ones. Like, some of them are 5-6 yards, and he's just brickhanding them. It's like they don't care, and if they don't care, I don't care. So I'm not giving them a good grade. I can't. And now I'm being the teacher here. You know what I mean? You've had 5 opportunities to show me that. They showed me a little bit with Huntley's first game against Tennessee. Tyreek did get open a few times where the ball was missed, and then he opened up his mouth, and that's something that I wanted to see. And that's why we're not at an F, but that's one game.
There have been plenty of games this season, though, fellas. I think we're blinded by the crap that we've had to witness. There have been so many games where Tyreek Hill's running open down the field, and our quarterback, and whether it's Skylar, doesn't even look at him or looks right at him and just decides I'm going to take a sack. Or Tim Boyle completely misses on the route, throws it the opposite way, and Tyreek Hill's alone. No defender and 8 yards of him.
Yes.
This is not just on the wide receivers, which is why, why I didn't.
I agree with you, Josh. But that's no excuse for Tyreek Hill to drop a backwards pass and then not go after it.
Give up on it. Yeah.
Just stand there. I've never seen that in my life.
Wasn't Tyreek your jock strap last week, Josh?
Well, but look, they got to see. That's not a great grade, right? Look, this is a group effort, right? And this is a team sport, right?
Yeah.
We're grading average, and I don't think they've been playing average. Yeah, I think they've been below.
Well, that's cumulative guys were at like a C-, a D+. So I think
that's fair. Yeah, I think that's fair.
Slightly below average right now at that.
So Anthony, you're going to start us off on the tight ends.
This one's really tough because I feel like Jonnu is an A and everybody else is an F. So I guess that puts me at a C, right in the middle, right? Like,
yeah.
Durham Smythe and Julian Hill have been disappointing. We haven't gotten a chance to see Tanner Connor, unfortunately. I'd really like to get the chance to see more of him, but
is he injured? Right?
No,
he's not. He's back.
And actually, he got missed on. He was running routes in that last game, and he got missed on a longer throw by Huntley. I still like Tanner Connor. I still have hope for him. Go ahead, Anthony. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no problem. I think, getting a chance to see more Tanner Connor, and Mike has shown that he will put in guys who, or take out guys who are performing badly and give another guy a chance. I mean, after game 1, we saw Durham Smythe, like, almost instantly lose half his snap count in week 2 because he was so bad in week 1, right? I mean, so if we could start to see Tanner Connor get in there a little bit more, I think this grade goes up. But right now it's Jonnu an A, everybody else an F, so that lands me at a C.
I'm right there with you, Anthony. I think a C is about fair for this. Jonnu, to me, has been, around an A, B plus, B, whatever. And, I think you got Tanner Connor, who hasn't shown much. Julian Hill, who you guys know how I feel about Julian Hill.
You love him. A plus.
A plus for Julian Hill. And finally Durham Smythe, who, again, he's been out there, and
that's it. Just stop there. Just stop.
Well, if you judge Durham Smythe based on how he catches the ball, you're going to give him an F every time.
Mm-hmm.
But if you judge Durham Smythe based on how he blocks, which is what he's there for in the first place,
give him a D.
He hasn't been bad at blocking. But that being said, the unit as a whole needs to improve. Julian Hill needs to stop getting playing time. They need to stop putting him on the field and give his reps to a Tanner Connor, give his reps to Durham Smythe. Don't let Julian Hill in the field anymore. I'm tired of seeing him out there. So they get a C from me. Steve, what do you think?
Yeah, I feel like we have the same notes or something, and I don't even have notes, but I'm right there with you. I mean, if Durham Smythe wasn't getting the ball thrown to him and Julian Hill wasn't on the team, I would easily not have a problem saying that the tight end position is probably one of our better positions. But the fact that Julian Hill is just such a problem, he is the guy in the group that has the end of the year project that's not doing anything. He's the guy holding the whole group back, and then he's going to be the one that has to present it for 10 minutes. So that's how I feel about Julian Hill. You're losing with him. It's C.
Josh, what do you think?
I mean, hey, keep it moving. C is what I had. I think, I think there's nothing else to say. Julian Hill's an anchor. I totally whiffed on that. I was super high on him preseason. I thought he was going to bust out and be this, the compliment to Jonnu Smith that we didn't have. Was I wrong. Holy crap. This guy is awful. I mean, in every way, shape, or form. Doesn't block, drops balls, doesn't run the right routes, gets a penalty every 5th snap that he's on the field. Like, okay, bye. Clearly I was mistaken. Don't let me be a scout for the team. I think everyone nailed it. Jonnu gets A minus, everyone else F minus, if that's even a thing. Like, see you later.
All right.
The cumulative was easy. It was a C. Yeah.
That must have been hard for you, Anthony.
I was really had to do a lot of math up
here.
The
math is mathing on that one.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to start us off on the offensive line here, guys, and this is probably the toughest position group to grade on the entire
100%.
Do you grade them based on expectation? Do you grade them based on what you expected them to be going into the season, or do you grade them just based on performance? So based on expectation, I give them a B. They've actually been better than I expected them to be. And I didn't expect them to be very good at all. So they've been a mediocre unit. Teron Armstead has had his usual slew of injuries. You have Kendall Lamb stepping in for him. Robert Jones hasn't been very good. Robert Jones missed some time last game. Lester Cotton got some snaps in favor of him. Lester Cotton's not very good either. Aaron Brewer has been decent aside from his botched snap to Tyler Huntley last week. but he's also a liability in pass coverage. And then Liam Eichenberg on the right side has been not the dumpster fire that he was advertised to be. And finally, Austin Jackson, steady presence. No notes on Austin Jackson, honestly. He's been probably the most steady, probably best lineman outside of Terron Armstead. So do I give them a B based on the fact that they've been better than I expected them to be? Or do I give them a D based on the fact that they're still not a very good offensive line? I'm going to go down the middle and give them a C. Steve, what do you think?
We could just start drafting offensive linemen. I would not be upset. That's all I'm saying. I'm tired of shiny toys. I want to give this offensive line an A, but it's definitely not happening because we don't have the players for an A. We're thin, and I'm grading on overall hard chunk right here. And our offensive line to me has been a problem. As Keith said, the expectations weren't high, but the results are exceeding what, like, in a declining fashion of what I thought that they were going to be. I mean, our penalties are astronomically through the roof. We've hurt 2 quarterbacks with our offensive line play. Another one doesn't have any time to throw, so he got canned. And now another one's using his legs to try to do whatever he can to find an open receiver, but he's too busy still trying to learn a playbook and looking at these huge defensive linemen running at him. His eyes are downfield, but it seems like he's looking for an open space to run. So, I give the offensive line, honestly, a D plus. I know it's way off of what you guys are saying are at, and I understand where you guys are coming from, but I'm coming from just a bulk as a whole. How are we playing with the players we have? That next man up mentality. Are we playing good football? Are we playing football the right way? Are we holding players? Are we allowing penalties? Are we keeping our quarterback safe? None of that's happening. So I'm actually giving them a harder grade. And I think we should just go in and obviously you can't just go and draft elite linemen, but what linemen are going to be good in the first round. And when you pass up on them, back in the early 2000s, we were getting them and we had a good offensive line. It's just we didn't have the receivers then. We didn't have a good quarterback. We didn't have great receivers, but we had good running backs and a good offensive line. Now we have everything, but we have the worst offensive line I think we've had since I've been watching football. Maybe not, but it's up there. Statement. It's up there. Yeah. It's up there. It's not great. I think we're.
How dare you slander Jay Cutler like that, sir?
Yeah. I think we're looking at the line and glasses that are kind of being a little what's the word I want to use? A little
rose-colored.
Yeah, like you feel bad, so you want to give them a good grade. You know what I mean? Because they're down to their 3rd position here, and they're bringing Lester Cotton in. Hopefully, he can hold his own.
I mean, those are all legitimate things, man. I mean,
I like Lester. To be honest, I
don't.
I know you guys.
I think he's horrible.
Every time I've watched him, he's the most aggressive player on the field when he gets in. Watch him next time after the
aggression.
I do. And even after the whistle, he's still pushing people. If you get a penalty for it, I'm going to be upset. But he does not let go until after the 2nd or 3rd whistle. I like that. Mm-hmm. He's bringing fire and intensity, but they're just not good. And I can't look at it any other way than that. So, yeah, I'm sticking to my grade. We're in the D's.
Spicy take. Right. This is a spicy position. I love this.
Well, here we go, Josh. Now's the time to shine.
Look, I mean, I got him at a B-, right? The polar opposite of Steve, right? And I am factoring in everything. And when I say everything, I mean everything. I'm factoring in you have the injuries, right? I mean, we can't ignore that, right? That is not – I don't think that is an indictment on how they've played. And I think that speaks to something that, Keith, you alluded to. Do we talk about their potential or what we thought they were going to be versus what they are? And I think you have to take both into account and take into what Steve said, the next man up mentality. I think Patrick Paul is a rookie, 62 offensive snaps, 0 penalties, 1 sack allowed. Right. That's outstanding at the left tackle position, right? You have Robert Jones, who's a dumpster fire. F, bad, horrible. Bye. See you later. Right. Julian Hill, you could take him with you. Lester Cotton, been very good. Right. I mean, all things considered, I'm not a fan of his. I think he's a great backup. You never want, if he's your starter, you are in deep shit. Right. But for all intents and purposes, right, Lester Cotton, serviceable player. Aaron Brewer, I am high on Aaron Brewer. I think he's played very well this season. I mean, yes, he's had some bad plays. I think everyone has, right, on every team. But I think as a center, I think he's been very good. Very, very good, especially given the fact and looking through the lens that he's had 4 quarterbacks that he's hiking the ball to that have different cadences, that have different the way they like to receive the ball if they're not in shotgun and so on and so forth. I think he's done outstanding. He's been great in the run game. Yeah, mediocre to poor in the pass game, but he's not billed as a pass protector. He is a more slender center that we purposely went after for this offense so that he could pull. So he's speed and in the run game, right? Because we do a lot of those. I'm glad we're kind of getting away from it seems like. But Austin Jackson has been and I cannot believe that I'm saying this, has been a pillar of consistency for this offensive line this year, right? And you have Leon Eichenberg, who, for all intensive purposes, everyone sees Eichenberg's name, me included, and says automatically, without even look, yeah, he's bad. He's actually graded out pretty okay this year. I mean, okay, not great, not good, but okay. Taking all of that into account, I don't see how you can you can think that this offensive line is bad. It's not great by any stretch of the imagination, but it's not bad. Given every hurdle that they've had to go through, they've done really well. I mean, in my opinion. So that's why they get a B-.
Yeah, I think the thing is that there's just it's a noticeable lack of talent across the offensive line. And that's what I see. You know, I see guys like Robert Jones and Lester Cotton out there, and it's like, man, it'd be really nice if the Dolphins had drafted Graham Barton or Jackson Powers Johnson or or Cooper Beebe, who's killing it for the Cowboys right now.
All players that I had mocked to in one way, shape, or form. I mean,
me too. Why I mentioned them. Or even Christian Mahogany, who isn't playing for the Lions right now, but he lasted until the 6th round. Don't know why the Dolphins didn't go after a guy like that, but there's just a noticeable lack of talent as far as I see it. But Anthony, we're all over the place as far as our grades go. Hone us in a little bit here, man.
We are all over the place. I tend to agree with you, though, Keith, and a C. I think they're a very average offensive line because I think we have good pieces. I think Patrick Paul's looked great in the minimal time he's gotten. Teron Armstead continues to defy time and be great when he's out there. But as you know, we knew even when we signed him that he is an injury risk, right? This is why the Saints let him go. he's often injured. I think Aaron Brewer has been great. I think Austin Jackson, who is this Austin Jackson that we have now? Because it's not the guy who we were all bashing just a few years ago. Unreal. He did have a rough game against the Patriots, I will say.
He did.
Actually, the right side of the line in general just was.
Patriots give everybody a problem, though.
Yeah, I mean, their strength of their.
Yeah.
Listen, the right side of the line stood out to me. I'm not a guy who watches the offensive line, only if they're playing so badly you notice them, sort of thing. And certainly the Eichenberg and Jackson were having a rough time, to put it nicely here. But I do want to point out a couple things. These guys are mostly drafted by us. Austin Jackson in 2020, a first-round pick. Liam Eichenberg, a second-round pick in 2021. And now we have Patrick Paul, a second-round pick in 2024. So Greer does draft offensive linemen, maybe not as often as we would like to see, but I think the mantra or the saying that we don't draft offensive line is just we don't draft offensive line as often as we want to as fans, right? We haven't had much luck with the guys that we've signed. Aaron Brewer, thank you for working out because many of the not big name, like Armstead's a big name, right? But the not big name talents like Lester Cotton and Kendall Lamb, and so these guys have not really worked out for us. So listen, I'm giving them a C. I think I'm right there in the middle. I think they've played average. We have really good pieces on this line. We need guards, though. I do not know. If it wasn't for Alec Ingold, would we have any rushing yards this season? Because the guards certainly aren't helping.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go with a C. That is going to bring our cumulative grade to a C as well. So that leaves us with a D for the quarterbacks, a B plus for the running back, a C minus, D plus for the wide receivers. We were in between grades on that one. A C for the tight end, and then a C for the offensive line. Just looking at it in general, that's about like a C grade for the offense overall.
That seems fair.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I mean,
A little higher than I would expect, to be
but again,
honest.
relative to expectations, it should be lower, I would think. But all right, so guys, we're gonna move on. We're gonna do defense next week. So guys, if you're tuning in, we're gonna grade defenses next week. You don't want to miss that. We're gonna do that in lieu of going over and analyzing a football game that there is no football game to analyze.
That we don't have.
Yeah. So, but we are going to move on this week, and we're going to analyze how our draft class looks thus far. So just to bring you guys through again, through our draft class again, we drafted Chop Robinson, defensive end in the first round. Then we have Jalen. We have Patrick Paul, who drafted in the second round. Jalen Wright was a fourth round pick. We traded a third round pick for him. And then we have Malik Washington, Mohamed Kamara, Patrick Morris, Taj Washington. So I just took you guys through our draft picks. Josh, I'm going to start off with you. What do you think about this draft class?
I think there are two very bright spots. I think there's one and I think there's a bunch of I know you guys are going to roll your eyes. I think there's a bunch of incompletes, right? Yeah. I think the bright spots are clearly Jalen Wright. I think he's this season's for us. This season's Devon Achane, right? I think he's not getting the volume, right? So the yards and the production isn't there, but I think he's a stud. I really do. I've loved him since Tennessee. I was banging on the table to draft him in the second round, let alone getting him in the fourth. I'm happy with fine. Give up a third. We have a couple third compensatory picks coming our way. Fine. See you later. Patrick Paul, I think in the short amount of time, 62 offensive snaps, like I said earlier, 0 penalties, 1 sack allowed, right? Okay, that's outstanding for one of the hardest positions in football, the left tackle position, right? Not to mention the fact that he's blocking for 62 snaps for 4 different quarterbacks, right? I think and each one of them have a different drop back, have a different processing, pattern, have a different time to release, and all of that factors into how good or where, how far, how deep your left tackle, your right tackle drops, what their steps look like, and so on, what their drop steps look like, and so on and so forth. And I think he's been outstanding, right? Chop Robertson is the right now. Okay, cool. You're on the field. Good for you. 5 games, 3 solo tackles, 4 assists, 7 total tackles, 1 tackle for loss, no sacks, right? Not what you want to see from your first round pick. Malik Washington, whatever. Okay. Like, I think he needs to come back, right? He needs to get into the swing of things, and maybe we'll start seeing a little more. And I'm shocked personally. I'm a huge fan of Mo Kamara. I am a massive fan. I think he's actually a better pass rusher now than Chop Robinson is. I'm surprised he has gotten 0 snaps, I think, in the regular season. I could very well be wrong with that, but I couldn't find any stats on him, so I'm assuming he hasn't played.
I haven't seen him out there.
Yeah, and then Patrick Morris and Taj Washington are IR and A's. So, it's kind of a meh draft class with 1 potential star, 1 potential starter, and 1 potential rotational defensive end.
Anthony, what do you think?
Yeah, I really, as many of you know, if you watch the show, my bold prediction is that Chop Robinson was going to win Defensive Rookie of the Year. It doesn't look so good through 5 weeks here. Listen, watching him is really exciting. He's so fast, right? Like, he's so explosive off the line, but he just doesn't have the finesse yet, right? Like, I think they call those players raw, right? They're a raw talent. He has the size, the strength, the speed, but he just doesn't know how to put it together to actually disrupt a play yet. And I'm really hopeful that he'll find it, but we tend to draft defensive ends that take forever to actually find their way. Jalen Phillips was one of them. Deion Jordan never found his way.
You shall not be named.
Right.
Charles
So
Harris.
it does really surprise me that Mo Kamara hasn't found his way on the field, especially considering we signed Tyus Bowser like 2 days before the game and he played. It's like it makes no sense. So maybe he's dealing with an injury or something like that. I don't know. Jalen Wright, everything you guys told me he would be. I don't watch college football. I knew nothing about this guy, but Josh and you guys were talking him up and he is awesome. So the running back position is going to be really fine with Achane and Wright for a while.
God, could you think about that, fellas? If we can keep we're set for the foreseeable. That's crazy.
Yeah,
it's nuts. It's really well worth trading up for him. I think we're going to probably miss that 3rd round pick this year when we get to the draft. But listen.
Well, don't forget we have two 3rd round compensation picks that we get, so we'll have 2 3rd round picks this year.
Well, okay. Maybe.
No, for sure, because of the contracts that were given out to.
Okay.
They were over $100 million each. One to Christian Wilkins and one to Robert Hunt.
Given to the,
okay. I know Christian Wilkins is hurt right now.
It's not based on.
By the way, I hate to see that because Christian Wilkins is one of my favorite Dolphins when he was here.
Yeah, that was tough.
And he's always been, kind of a model of consistency. He hardly ever missed a game, and it sucks to see him go to Las Vegas and have to go on IR. All right, so Steve, what are your thoughts on this draft class?
Honestly, I don't understand why Malik Washington hasn't got his go yet. I am probably a little bit more. I haven't really expressed it as much, but I'm probably a little bit more excited to see what he can do in a slot receiver position. Jalen Wright would be a rookie of the year if he was on a team like the San Francisco 49ers. So we got a steal in the 3rd round with him. And Chop Robinson is exactly what I thought he was going to be. A player with not enough film, not enough experience in college, only really went off against bad teams like Maryland. He just, I guess he has the size. He looks good in the combine. He looks good in the weight room. He looks good on the track. But when you put the pads on and turn the lights on and get the fans in the seats and all that, you put a guy in front of him that's the same size as him or a little bit bigger, which most of these offensive linemen are going to be. He doesn't impress anybody. So I said it from the beginning that I don't think we should have wasted a 1st round pick on him. I was kind of hoping we would have went with an offensive line or, I would honestly have to go back and look at the draft class to tell you what I wanted because I can't really remember it at this point in my time, but I do remember being upset that it was Chop Robinson. With that being said, I am a lot more optimistic about the rest of our rookies. I really like, Patrick Paul. I think he's going to be the next stud offensive lineman, and hopefully we don't trade him. I know we got a lot from Laramie Tunsil, but I don't want to see that with Patrick Paul. I don't care how much you can get for him. Let's keep a stud lineman and just, let other teams wish they had him rather than giving him up for, XYZ and this person, that person. Like
he is a mountain of a human.
Yeah, keep him. I would have been okay with keeping Laramie Tunsil. Granted, we wouldn't have what we have today and, 5 of these elite players that we ended up getting, but it's time to keep this one. And it wouldn't be surprised me if they, somebody offered the kitchen sink for a guy like Patrick Paul and Chris Greer's ears go up like an idiot. And, now we're sending another guy away to hopefully get, in his eyes, things to help build Miami back up to a contender.
I will say this though, in all honesty, Laramie Tunsil deal comes around, you take it 10 out of 10 times, right?
Yeah, you have to.
You have to.
But then you have to go and fill that void.
Oh, for sure.
We didn't do that. Yeah. We didn't do that. It was a next man in mentality with that.
Well, they thought they were with Austin Jackson. To be fair, they thought drafting Austin Jackson was kind of filling
and Liam, because Liam was a left tackle at Notre Dame.
Yeah. So they tried. They thought they were, swings and misses, ones and all.
Well, then to rest my case, we have a good one. Keep it.
Yeah, fair enough.
To Steve's point too, like every cornerback on the draft board was still available at that chop pick. I don't know, maybe a position you'd like to have.
Yeah. You can never, in my opinion, you can never have too many cornerbacks.
Yeah, I really forget who I did want, but I do remember sitting with my buddies and they were telling me, oh, because we're all Penn State fans. They were like, oh, dude, this is great for you. This is great for you. I'm like, dude, no, it is not. He has had 22 tackles in his whole college career. How is that great for me?
Jared Odrick flashbacks, man.
Yeah,
Oh my
it doesn't
God.
mean nothing.
That's the
but
guy I
what
couldn't
we're
remember.
doing. So, that's I don't want to be bashing Chop too much because hopefully with me bashing him, I'll look like an idiot in 3 years and hopefully he's going to a Pro Bowl. But
well, I will say
right
this.
now,
I do think him getting a full off season in a professional weight room with professional training, getting off season coach, like, you know, the going to those off season programs where players go to and after the season to train. I think we could see a vastly different, like very similar to Jalen Phillips. Now, Jalen Phillips came out of University of Miami, rocked up, right? I mean, just like chiseled. I mean, it was disgusting. Yeah. But I think Chop Robinson can have that sort of transformation, I guess is a word we could use, from what he is now to what he could be. Put on some weight onto his frame. I think he's got plenty of room to put on weight without losing speed. I think there is potential for him. It's just a matter, to Anthony's point, if he could put it all together.
I keep on holding on to that game against the Bills. He's facing Dion Dawkins, and he's looking like a dog out there. And Dawkins is awesome, right? Mm-hmm. And Chop was just pushing him around. Like, if he can just learn how to kind of just get the sack, right? Don't just push the guy. Get the sack too. This is a two-phased approach here.
All he had to do was put his arm out, right?
All he had to do.
He needs to call Aaron Donald and learn that rip. That rip that Aaron Donald does. I haven't seen him
train with knives, right?
I haven't seen him go under the armpit. And now I'm no offensive lineman. Look, I'm like 160 pounds soaking wet with my steel toes.
He'd be better than Rob Jones.
So, but what I'm saying is, when you see him just hand fighting the whole time, like with some of the, I mean, and it's a defensive tackle I'm talking about compared to an end. Obviously, the position is different. You're still on the line still, but you see Aaron Donald do that rip where he goes up and under the armpit and really just forces the guy out of the way. I think Chop Robinson has that strength and body style to be able to do it, and it just doesn't look like he knows how.
You know who you just like reminded me of with that, like who I would love for him to train with in the offseason because he was awesome at this, and Chop reminds me of him, is Dwight Freeney, man.
Yeah. Spin move. Yeah. I knew you were going to say.
Oh, man.
Dwight
had such a large toolkit of moves. He was so good. Like, I would just recommend all young defensive ends go train with Dwight Freeney, to be honest.
Yeah. So, in the spirit of giving letter grades here, through 5 games, and I understand that, there's a lot of incompletes here, but in the spirit of giving letter grades, what are you guys giving this draft class thus far?
Do you want to go player by player or just draft as a whole?
Just draft as a whole.
Okay.
You go to me first?
Yeah, I'll go to you first, Anthony.
Yeah, so I'd like to just go by the first 3 picks. I think if you get any after the 4th round or later, or anything after that is just gravy, right? So if I'm judging it based on Chop and Patrick Paul and Jalen Wright, I would say this is an A.
Okay. Josh?
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably leaning more towards a B, right? I think we have a clear, successful player in Jalen Wright that can do a lot of things and have a good career. Chop is TBD, right? With all the talent in the world. Patrick Paul, just on a limited snap count, has looked really great. I think, to Anthony's point, between those 3 players, you feel very comfortable, right? Because the draft is a lottery. So you never know. I mean, we've had Jamarcus Russell pick number 1 overall and been one of the worst picks ever. You've had Brock Purdy be the very last pick. I mean, so you never know, right? I would give this, with all of the other incompletes, probably a B.
Steve?
Right there with him, a B. I mean, can't really argue too much. It's a good draft. It really is a good draft. And even the people below, I think Taj Washington and Malik Washington, if Tua was healthy, and if I hate going back to these ifs, but if Tua was healthy and the team was playing like we thought they were going to play, I feel like Malik Washington would have maybe almost 200 yards at this point in the season. 5-6 games in, I don't see how that would have been hard. And then Taj Washington unfortunately got hurt, but he's another guy that I think is going to take over for one of them two is going to take over for Braxton Berrios. And I think it's going to be, it should have been sooner than later, but I think it's ultimately going to happen by Thanksgiving. I think.
Yeah, let's not forget Patrick McMorris looked like a stud in the preseason.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
He
So
did, but we haven't seen him yet.
But I do think that we have a good second half of that draft. They're all developing players. They're all players that I agree should probably sit and learn. Do the Packers deal with what they do with their quarterbacks? I think that all rookies should almost sit for a year, unless you're that special breed, that Andrew Luck, that Dan Marino. You know what I mean? Like if you have one of them, obviously you got to play them. But these rookies really should sit. I mean, and I hate it. I can't express how much I hate it when a rookie gets hurt, because then they get passed up on pretty quick. There's nothing more. I mean, there's nothing worse than that. At least if you waited a whole season, you learn the playbook, you got repetitions in with first teams, you got repetitions in with second teams, you have, relationships with these players and coaches, and now you are in for a second season. It's a little easier to kind of gel. Whereas, you get hurt as a rookie, fifth, sixth game, you're kind of out of the loop now. You're just rehabbing. You're away from that first team. You're away from that second team. You're not making these cultural impacts in the locker room anymore. Like these.
Well, that's how it used to be, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Rookies would sit for 2-3 years before they even saw
George Allen school football.
Yeah.
George Allen hated rookies.
But that's how you create a gelled together team. When you have these rookies going in, they don't know exactly the style of play that we do in the NFL here. You have these veterans probably getting all. I'm sure there's a lot more players hitting themselves in the head rather than picking themselves up. You know what I mean? Like rookie, you always see rookie hazings and not so much anymore since we got in trouble with that. But
of course we did. Of course we did.
I know. I'm a big fan of having these rookies sit, and I believe I see that you guys all agree. But
yeah,
what about you, Keith?
I have a much less rosy view of the draft class. Much less rosy. I'm not a huge fan of Patrick Paul still. He's not a scheme fit for what McDaniel wants to do. He's too big. He's not very nimble. Jalen Wright, good pick, solid pick. You traded a third-round pick to get into the fourth round to draft him.
Mm-hmm.
What the hell are you doing? And Chop Robinson, he's raw. He's inexperienced. He doesn't have. As Anthony from the AFC Summit show on Next City Mafia, he said he described Chop Robinson as he's a bag of tools. Great. But if you're using a screwdriver to hammer in a nail, you're not really doing much, are you? Chop Robinson, to this point, is just a raw pass rusher. He's a raw physical talent. What the Dolphins needed after 2 straight drafts of not having first-round picks, not having a second-round pick in the 2022 draft, because they traded away picks for Tyreek Hill, they traded away picks for Bradley Chubb, lost a pick due to the collusion scandal with Tom Brady and Sean Payton. They needed an infusion of young talent. They needed an infusion of young plug-and-play talent. What you have with Patrick Paul is a raw offensive tackle who makes up for it by being one of the oldest rookies in this class. He's 24 years old. Chop Robinson is raw. You needed a plug-and-play offensive lineman in that position. You needed a Graham Barton, a Jackson Powers Johnson, a Cooper Beebe, a guy who you can plug, play, don't worry about it for 10 years. This is not a good class in my estimation. Jalen Wright doesn't save this class in my estimation. And I hate to be that guy that gets on here and I'm all negative.
Johnny should have went first, dude. You're gonna end the show on a sad note here.
Johnny
Don't leave,
Raincloud
everybody.
over here. Johnny Raincloud over here. But I wasn't a huge fan of the draft class after it was done. Still not a huge fan of it. Muhammad Kamara still hasn't seen the field. Anthony said it. You can't really count these guys after the 4th round. Anything that those guys give you is a bonus. Well, that's great because those guys haven't given us anything. So, no bonus.
Very few do, man.
Yeah.
Very few do.
But yeah, Chop
point.
Robinson may well turn into the second coming of Dwight Freeney. But what the Dolphins needed this year was the second coming of Marshall Yanda. The
I
second
mean,
coming.
I'll be honest with you though, Keith. How can you assume that you're getting a plug and play 10-year starter? What historical context do you have that in the first round you're guaranteed a plug and play starter? Hindsight is a dangerous game to play, man.
But guard is the safest position that you could have gone there. You draft a guard, you're pretty much guaranteed to be a plug and play starter. Whereas Chop Robinson, you knew you were drafting a bag of tools
with insane potential.
I agree with that.
Insane potential.
And Powers Johnson was my pick. I had him, but he was a center.
Chris Greer went into this draft. Chris Greer went into this draft looking to hit a home run. He was looking to hit a grand slam. He should have been looking for a single or a double. That's what the Dolphins needed in this draft. They needed an infusion of young talent that isn't going to bust out on us. We don't need a Deion Jordan who was a swing for the fences.
I'm so pumped because I've never disagreed with you more in my life.
I feel like the screens are split. Like Anthony and I are like, hey, it's not bad. And Steve and you are like, this is horse garbage.
I want my first round pick to be the guy who could be the next Peyton Manning, or the guy who could be the next superstar. I don't want some safeguard in the first round.
I would agree with you. I would agree with you if we had first round picks the last 2 years.
I do too.
Yeah, but you guys also, what you guys aren't understanding is that you have to take into account the players we got for those picks. There was no player in this draft. I don't care if it was the first overall pick down to where we picked that was better than Nick Chubb, than Bradley Chubb. Right? There is no player in this draft that's better than Tyreek Hill. Now he's playing like hot garbage right now, but 217.
You're also sacrificing cheap, affordable, young talent for older, more expensive, proven talent.
Well, that is an understatement, Keith. You are doing yourself a disjustice if you're saying that those two players are just proven talent.
Well,
those are stud stars at their positions.
Yes, they are. Bradley Chubb, not so much. Bradley Chubb's a good defensive end.
I'm going to counter again by saying that the offensive line has been anything but a surefire thing the past 5 years. I mean, that's all they ever talk about during draft day is how the offensive line used to be a surefire thing. You get an offensive tackle in the top 10, they end up playing for you for 12 years or whatever. But we haven't seen that. I mean,
this wasn't a normal offensive line class, though, Anthony. And you look at the way Graham Barton and Cooper Beebe, Jackson Powers Johnson,
again,
look at the way those guys are playing.
But yeah, you're using a 5-game sample in the NFL already. There's no way you could have known that beforehand. Also, again, I don't want to guard at 18. This is boring, and it doesn't help your team as much as you think it does.
Boring wins games.
No, it doesn't. Our running game is already very good. What is a guard going to do for our passing game? Absolutely nothing, right? Boring does not win games. The Kansas City Chiefs are anything but boring.
It's going to make it so that Ed Oliver isn't into his lap the second he drops back.
Yeah,
nobody does that.
Nobody
does that.
Man, this is awesome. First round. I got to be honest with you. I absolutely love. I love that there's two of us on this side and two not even lukewarm, polar freaking opposites. This is what this kind of show's about, fellas.
Yeah.
I've been saying it though since the beginning. You need hands in the dirt and you need to draft them first. I haven't said you need to draft them first, but that's the best way to build a team is to draft them first and having hands in the dirt.
Well, what did they say? What did they say?
Important position.
Right? Hands in the dirt, Steve. What is Chop Robinson? He's a hand in the dirt.
Not really. He's on 2 feet most of the time.
He's a defensive
end. He's an outside linebacker. He's an outside linebacker.
He's a defensive end.
They're the same basic thing. But
yeah, but he's on.
And I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying, Josh. I do, and I see what you're saying, Anthony. I see what you're saying. I understand what you're saying. I don't agree. I didn't like the Chop pick when it happened. I still don't like it. I hope I'm wrong. I hope 3 years from now he turns.
No, I'm kidding. I'm just messing.
I hope I'm wrong. I hope 3 years from now he turns into the next Dwight Freeney. That would be amazing. That would be incredible. But
let's just for a moment, shall we? Go look at the 2-time Super Bowl winning in a row Kansas City Chiefs and see how many offensive linemen they've drafted in the first round. Let's say the past 5 years.
Okay.
Any guesses?
I'm going to say 0.
1.
It's 0.
Wait, they
It's
drafted their center, didn't they?
Creed Humphrey's a second-round pick.
Oh,
It
second
was
round
a second round pick.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the past
Sorry.
they didn't have one in 2021, so that's a little bit of cheating. But
they're still drafting linemen. We're not even doing
Yeah, we
that.
drafted Patrick Paul.
So are
Hey,
we.
Patrick
But
Paul
I
is
don't-
round 2.
I don't
What do you
think
mean
Patrick
we're not
Paul's a
drafting?
scheme fit. And I have a problem
But
with
they
Patrick
do,
Paul
and they're
in this scheme.
professionals, right? Like Chris Greer has been in the NFL for 30 years or something like that, right? Like
Yeah.
you can hate him all you want, but you can't say that you know more than him about football. And if he thinks that Patrick Paul is going to fit and he works with the team, he works with the coaches, like we've seen Hard Knocks enough to know that this is not a GM in a bubble like on draft day, right? Like this isn't the Cleveland Browns GM going, this is my decision, you do your job. Like these guys work together, and they said to the offensive line coach, how about Patrick Paul? And he said yes. So that's all you can hope. But I just want to break the mantra that we don't draft offensive linemen, because we have 3 of them on our team right now that we did draft. So taking an offensive lineman in the first round is no guarantee anymore. This isn't the 80s or the 90s. This is 2024. Teams are not built like that anymore. They're built on speed, and they're built on explosive plays. And they're built on smarts more than anything. Maybe we're not drafting smart
You need
players. Maybe
time
that's the
for
problem.
plays.
To an
though,
extent,
and also-
Anthony. This game, it's going to evolve and change before our eyes, over the next 10, 15, 25, 50 years. But this game, at its core, in my opinion, will always be a game that's won and lost in the trenches.
Absolutely.
With how this team is constructed, I could not disagree with you more.
Well,
Sorry,
with how
guys.
this team's constructed, and by my rationale,
Tua has the fastest release under. Was it 2 point? Somebody
2.33 seconds. I had it. Yeah.
So why would you spend a first round pick on a big beefy offensive lineman?
It only
because the better
guard.
defense is
This system.
stymied Tua.
This system only works with Tua. There's very few quarterbacks that can perform with a bad offensive line.
Of course,
And
but what I'm saying is look at Tua. He was healthy last
because
year.
he
There was
has
no
the
reason to
fastest
draft an
release.
offensive
It's the only
lineman.
reason why a bad offensive line works for him.
But
It's
it
the
works.
only reason, but
But
it's
it works.
only for him. But it doesn't work for the team. It only works for Tua, and that's where you fail, because Tua is not always going to be there. The second Tua is not there, now the team has failed, because not everybody has that quick release as Tua does. And now you need time, and you don't have it. Because
Just to add to that,
if your backups were Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen, where they could run out of the pocket and create that time, they probably wouldn't be your backup.
All right, guys, we're getting up to an hour and 45 here. We do need to think about calling it soon. So I'm going to give everybody 30 seconds. Give me final thoughts on what we're talking about here, and then we're going to sign off for the night. All right. So, Anthony, I'm going to start with you.
Yeah, that was my button there. The last thing I wanted to say is that, like, we're talking as if you need an entire offensive line, an entire defensive line of first-round picks. That doesn't exist. It just doesn't. Like, you need your players that you draft to play well in the system that they were drafted to play well in. Maybe our problem is we've had, on defense at least, we've had, 3 different defensive schemes in the past 3 years. The offensive line, they truly don't believe that we need a really good offensive line. Right or wrong, indifferent, whatever you want to say about it. If you guys are setting yourself up for disappointment if you think every first round that Mike McDaniel and Chris Greer are in charge of this team, we're going to draft an offensive lineman, because I can guarantee it's not going to happen. So they're looking for the breakout player. They're looking for the superstar. They're looking for the genie in a bottle, or whatever the heck you want to call it. They hope they get it with Chop. Listen, I don't have a whole lot of confidence in our draft picks because we haven't had great drafts, but I'm still really on team, like, go get that guy who could be a superstar over go get the guard. That's so boring.
I'm with you. I'm with you.
Yeah, Josh.
And final thought, something else to keep in mind, since I love this. I love draft. Draft talk is drafting is my passion. The draft, I cannot wait. Not that I'm excited for the season.
It's going to be fun.
It's my favorite time of the year, mainly because the Dolphins have sucked for 20 years. So it's the only time I get excited. But I will say this. Also keep in mind some of the draft strategy, okay, that we've implored and over the last couple of years is to make sure we have someone there that can fill the high price ticket item, right? So you have Bradley Chubb who's leaving. So we draft Chop Robinson. Hopefully he can step in the Jalen Phillips role because Jalen Phillips role is going to get paid the money essentially, theoretically. I mean, he's injured again, so who knows? But the thought process is there. You have Tyreek Hill on a huge salary, so they pay Jalen Waddle. So to be our number one when Hill leaves. So we gotta, so we draft to fill. You have Jalen Wright, right? Raheem Mostert's leaving, so that means Achane is stepping up. We need somebody to backfill Achane's role, so they draft Jalen Wright. So it seems like now, I'll be to Anthony's point, we suck at drafting. So when we hit, hey, great for us, right? Pat on the back. But there's a rhyme and a reason to why they drafted the players that they did. Patrick Paul, tons of potential, huge person. Look at him compared to Teron Armstead, pretty similar. Right?
Yeah.
Teron Armstead's about to go out the door. Let Patrick Paul learn from him for a year and step into his shoes, hopefully. Right? So I'm with Anthony on this, man. I really am.
All right.
Keith, by the way, you didn't give a grade. You didn't give a grade for your draft.
I'll give him a C. No, I'll give him a C.
That's not bad.
No, the Jalen Wright pick was a hit. I can't knock them for that. I can knock what they gave up to get him, but I can't knock them for drafting Jalen Wright because Jalen Wright has been a hit. Jalen Wright is the reason why we're 2-3 right now and not 1-4.
I love it.
That's a B then for the draft. We have a B draft. What are we all arguing about, right?
Because it's fun.
Yeah. All right, Steve. Final thoughts, man.
Yeah, my final thought is switch from a 3-4 to a 4-3. Put Chop at the end instead of on the outside linebacker. Switch it on your depth chart, and I'll stop arguing it. But my final thought is just draft the right player. Just draft the player that's the best player on the board. And it wasn't Chop at the time. He was not the best player on the board.
But if he turns into Jalen Phillips,
what, and gets hurt every other year?
Like a healthy Jalen Phillips, let's say.
Okay, well then that would be sweet. But I would just rather, if your first pick should be more of a game-ready pick than Chop Robinson. I bet you if we didn't pick him, he would have fell pretty far. I don't think a whole lot of teams, for some reason, all the bad teams that stay bad are all the teams that like to gamble. I'm not saying we're a bad team, but we've been stuck in this mediocre position of draft picks for a long time. And when you gamble, it tends to not work out. Whereas Keith's point, when you pick somebody who you know is more of a plug and play player, that's more of the safe pick of the first round. And I still stick with Keith on that, where we just need to start drafting players who in their respective round should be drafted by their respective ready time to play.
All right. I'm sure there's going to be more debates of this nature in future episodes. I think we struck a chord with all of us. We kind of
We found it.
It was And
we just found our segments for draft season, though. Very clearly, the two of us are on the same page, and the other two are on the same page. So draft season is going to be
amazing content.
Yes, absolutely.
Ladies and gentlemen, buckle up.
Absolutely. But we're getting up to an hour 50 right now. It's been a pretty long show. So, guys, look, we're going to be watching football, non-Dolphins football this weekend. So it's going to be a nice, easy, stress-free weekend for us. We don't have to pay too much attention to, who wins. Just watch our fantasy teams, right?
Oh, let's not talk about fantasy leagues.
It's been a rough year.
Yeah,
we're playing the Bills. I'm rooting for whoever's playing the Jets are playing the Bills. I lied. I'm not rooting for them.
Nope. How about we root for a tie in that game?
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. Let's go Houston. They're playing New England. Come on, Houston.
All the people who have watched it or are watching the show, if you like what you saw tonight, please like, subscribe. We have merchandise. Phins Forecast merchandise if you feel so inclined. But look, guys, for Steve, Aqua Ace, Anthony, I'm the Philly Phins fan. We're going to sign off for the night. You guys have a nice night. Fins up. We'll see you next week.
Fins up, baby. Later.